I was absolutely blown
Wait,
away. I'm sorry, go
what
ahead.
happened?
It just hit
Okay, go
record.
ahead.
It just said record. I was absolutely blown away by your work on The Residents. It's just, you never know from 1 minute to the next if you're guilty, if you're innocent, and the fire that was in your belly with all of these incredible characters. Um, Clearly, a man who was more passionate about his art and making beautiful food than not being able to use fire in the
Yeah,
in the ballroom. Uh, he wanted to have tableside bananas Foster, which was super important to him, and obviously he put all the hard work into those kangaroos. Um, so
yeah,
we understand where his attitude comes from. But how did this project
yeah.
find you? How did DDA find his way to you?
They sent me his the pages for a very nice scene, the one where he's showing off the gingerbread White House to AB Winter, and they sent me that, and I thought, oh, he's very interesting because he's saying things that I know the writer knows are funny, and I recognize as funny, but he's going to have to say those things. I'm thinking specifically of a line where he proudly tells AB how he made a little figure, and he says, "Your feet are marshmallow." Blah blah blah. And then he ends with a line that I think is genius, which is, "Your head is gummy." He doesn't say your head is a gummy. He says your head is gummy, which is a great, description of the conservative way that character thinks. But I realized obviously it was super important for me not to get the joke. So there's a it was wonderful to play because I knew that parts of it were funny, and I was committed to never knowing the character, never guessing that he was in any way funny. And so that I knew would I knew from that one scene that the writing would literally conjure acting out of you because he doesn't say a lot. Uh, it, he doesn't say a lot, so there's loads of room to act, which is not that common. Then that was just the one scene that I saw. But as we were doing it, I realized there's always room to do all kinds of stuff underneath that is going to help the material because the people are going to wonder what is going on. So that excited me, and then they considered it for a long time. I don't know how many other people were being considered, but it took them a long time to decide, and finally it happened, and I was terribly excited and remained excited because the sets were so incredible.
Certainly, you have a penchant for doing accents, and DDA is Swiss, German, Swiss, Italian.
Yeah,
I never remember which side of the border he wound up on. But how do you set these accents apart from each one? You do them so uniquely. I can't confuse one character for another. Like I wouldn't say this person has this character in them. You have a unique voice for each of these characters you put on.
yeah, yeah. And I thank you for saying that. No, it's fun in this particular case. Just to give two examples in Perfect Strangers, which you're too young to have ever seen, but if you have ever seen a piece of it, um,
I've seen it plenty. It was a staple of my childhood.
well, I would say in that particular case, the richness of the accent was part of the story. It told you every second that you were dealing with this fish out of water. In the case of DDA, it was the opposite. I didn't. He, as a person, didn't want to give anything away. So he's the opposite. He's like, I'm going to keep everything for myself, and whatever slips out is your business to interpret. But that's what makes the characters, you know, what makes it easy to differentiate them is you just keep thinking, well, what would he want? Uh, there are some people who have accents, and they show up for DoorDash or something, and I say, oh, where are you from? Because I want to like kind of just imbibe that accent. And sometimes and then I can tell from the looks on their faces, I jump in and say, I'm an actor. I just love the sounds because I'm afraid that at this point in our societal evolution, they think for a second I'm saying, where are you from, so that I can judge where you're from, if you know what I'm saying. So, so I'm always collecting little pieces because there's a myth. There's a great big myth that there is any such thing as when people say, oh, okay, could you do another take with a British accent? And I always think, well, I'll pick the one that's appropriate. But what do you mean a British accent? There's got to be
Be
200.
many, yeah,
There's got to
different
be
dialects from.
200 distinct. And when you ask a European to do an American accent, they always do this. Well, hi, how much is that castle if I want to buy that? And they're just doing this twangy, ignorant thing. And it's like, really?
Or
Because
Valley, where you're from, like LA, and that's
yeah,
like their go-to.
there's six, but there's everything from Maine, a real Maine accent to a Cajun that they couldn't understand each other. And so I always like to make sure that every character that does have an accent doesn't sound like a language tape. It's like, well, he's got his whole experience, so why does his come out like that? I enjoy that because there's no such thing as I'm Italian American, and most of my relatives are super expansive and super loud and super demonstrative. I'm not. I'm not. I'm introverted, and I have to really like who I'm talking to and like the topic to get excited. And so I always laugh when people say, "Oh, well, they're Italian." I'm like, "Oh, really?" Because at this point, with the white hair and my skin much cooler in tone than it was when I was younger, it's impossible to tell really what I am. Although you can't really tell. I mean, I played Irishman. I could play Middle Eastern. There's no limit, but there's no such thing as this is the what they mean. You just interpret for them.
Sure.
And so I could tell from the fact in the script that there was so many people saying, "What is he, German? What is he?" I thought, okay, that's a thing you have to do too. Don't wear it on your sleeve so that it's 100% clear. Just express yourself and hold it in here, and then you'll be able to understand why they can't quite. There's always a good character reason for what everybody else says. And since they can't figure it out, I thought, good. Well, then don't make it that obvious. Let them work at it because he doesn't. They don't know.
Well, DDA was butting heads quite a bit with Marvella and AB. Is it his passion for pastry and wanting to give the best showmanship for these incredible guests he has? Is it pride of work and being stifled for his creativity that's made the three of them just clash so deeply? I mean, he's clearly gone out of his way to make these kangaroos and make things pastry perfect. And then they're like, no, can't use the fire. Take off
Yeah.
the things. It sounds to me like it's less of a but like a workspace conflict and more of like I went out of my way. I made this stuff already. I did all of the work, and now you're like, nope, taking half of throwing away half of
Yeah.
all the work you put into it.
They're two very different things. In the case of AB, it really did send me back to my roots in TV. When I first started TV, I was fresh from the stage, and I felt everything should be uh, improvised. And so I would do a lot of improvisation, and then the people would come in, with their scripts, producers and network, and they'd say, "Okay, well, we didn't understand that, so that's cut." And I would say, "Well, an audience will understand it. I know it's funny," and they would just, if I showed them 100 things, they would let me try five, and they would cut out four. And because I thought I know what's bubbling up in me naturally is the character speaking directly to me and telling me, and I know it would work, but there are people pulling you back um, before you learn the fine art of, there are actors that have known me for years that say, aha, now you figured it out. Now if I have a wacky idea, I wait till everybody's doing their thing, everybody's good, and then I just put it in like one drop of vanilla extract. And so that's what I've learned over 40 odd years. But in the case of AB Winter, he really did remind me of, people coming in with their glasses and their notes when I was 26 and saying, no, 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 not that, that, or that. And I'm thinking, I know it's going to kill. And you're saying no, and you didn't even know anything about it. You've never made anybody, laugh. So that's that kind of rage, is the system uh, taking an emery board to your achievements, which the system tends to do. The system tends to do that because it is a system. If there's 15 people sitting in a screening room and five of them say, gosh, that's good, and one of them says, I'm not so sure, then it always leans toward the guy who says not so sure. Because that's what the A.B. Winter thing was about. The thing with Marvella was that she, in his estimation, in Didier's estimation, she was breaking with tradition just because it was her feeling that tradition, by definition, had to suck. And she was also, uh, I think, in the tradition, in the tradition of chefs, especially European chefs, there's got to be a pecking order and a respect. So I'm 35 years older than her. I am a traditionalist. I'm, trained, and I've had decades of experience. And she comes in with something I would guess more like 7 years of experience. And first of all, she doesn't respect my seniority. And secondly, she shits on everything I make that is a classic, as if because it's a classic, it's not going to be as interesting as what she's going to do. So those two things, which of course I understand her side of it too, but I'm just saying from my character's point of view. So those two things were the big things at play. And whenever you are a perfectionist at all in any field, if somebody who isn't a specialist in that field comes in and goes, "Yeah, what's that doing there?" You want to, you really do feel like a lion with their cubs, because it's like, you don't even know what I went through to make that. So don't. So that's that's what made him quite interesting, and also because it kept saying in the script he doesn't show emotion, and I thought, oh, now that's juicy, because if you don't show it, then it's just bubbling under the surface, and the camera is going to get all over that, because mystery is something the camera gets, that no other medium quite gets. If you're unreadable on film, it's really, really good, and that's what the camera is made for. The camera is made to get inside your head and read your thoughts even better than somebody that knows you for years. It's great that way. It's so amazing.
And I think that's why we buy into the fact that DDA could have done this outside of him trying to burn evidence. But um, uh, I can't believe he didn't lunge across the room at Trip after he borrowed your knives to cut his robes. I think those were moments where I expected DDA to have less restraint and more emotion, finding out his precious art has been used for scissors.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And you have such incredible co-stars. Was it hard to keep a straight face when you're working in those moments, or just watching Uzo, you're just like super in the moment and you're just following along with these incredible monologues she's doing?
I was never tempted to laugh with Uzo. What did happen to me during the long interrogation scene in the library was that, because we were doing that for about 11 hours, and I have told Uzo this myself, but you're always going on a journey when you're acting, at least at this point in my career. I think I maybe much earlier would say, well, now here's my game plan, but I don't have game plans anymore, uh, because that's where I've gotten to. And in the course of doing that scene, I felt a lot of emotions that made sense. And then every once in a while, I get one that was like, where is that even from? And one of them, when we were doing that scene, because it was relentless and we shot it for so many hours, is I came away from one setup thinking, am I falling in love with her? What the, what? But you never want to edit. You don't want to ever edit because these things happen in real life. You could be having, someone can make a snide comment and you can picture your hands around their throats in a second and you think, oh my gosh. I mean, that's what happens. So I never felt the urge to laugh with Uzo, but I did laugh many times with Mary Wiseman, who was playing Marvella, because when we would have to do those little scenes where she was just a little
I will
brat,
kill you.
I didn't want to laugh at that at all because I was so impressed with her, how she just located her inner fire. But there was a series of short scenes where she would just come and like, pour 2 pounds of sugar right on my feet, and she would be so on fire with just the evil of the character that I would howl with laughter, and then everybody would say, Bronson is very funny, but you need to look mad, and we need to get on.
Like,
So
I'm
I
doing my
laughed
best.
I laughed quite a bit with Mary because I admired her fire so much, and I it always took me by surprise. And she's kind of a bonfire of commitment as an actor, and she had her own thing going on, and I found that delightful, but it got to the surface as laughter. I laughed a lot with her. uh I didn't know I would, that was really well. The other thing is when we were in the room prepping the desserts, and I said, "This is my dessert. It's going to be done my way, and you will not touch my kangaroos." The producers were saying to the director, Liza, "Let's see if he can do one even angrier." And so Liza, who's a great actors director, would come in and she would say, "Do you think you could do one more angry?" And I say, "Yeah, I think so." And I do it angry. And finally, I did one that you could actually hear the nodes forming on my vocal cords, and you could see blood trickling down my ears. It was so angry. And then, just to be brat, Liza said from off, like off where the thing, she said, "Okay, one more where you just get even angrier." And we all just laughed because it's like the human body cannot get angrier than what I just did. My nose will fall off.
Oh my goodness.
But
Like, I've
that's,
already ruined my eardrums and my nasal passages.
yeah, no, it was fun. It was fun. People were so respectful of giving each other space when we had tough stuff to do, when you had emotional stuff to do. Grown up actors, I think one of the big differences between experienced actors and inexperienced actors is never the talent. It's reading the room and having the sense that, someone said, well, when Mary had to do her big scene where she said, "I will kill you," she had to do it, I'm going to say conservatively 36 times. And so you could have heard a pin drop in that room, because that's, you make sure that you create a perfect, pristine canvas for your fellow artists so that there's no distractions whatsoever. And then we would applaud, when she was done with the setup. But that was a typical thing about the set, is there's so much space and respect for what you would be trying to create in a given moment, that it was, uh, there's, even when you're working on something and you get friendly with someone, even they need to know when the camera's rolling, cut it out, knock it off, go neutral, because we're going to do our acting out. So it was great for that. It was an amazing set for that. So responsive and so supportive and really admiring. And we would applaud Uzo, And it was it was a no one ever said to us, let's all be amazing. It just was the group feel. It what the
Absolutely.
group feel was we we all know we've got a great piece of writing here. We know everybody's bringing their A game, and you would never hear noise. You would never. It was just really focused, um, in a way that and we were at it for on and off for 2 years because we had the writer strike and we had Andre's death and Uzo had a baby and so we were on it on and off, you know, since 2023. And in that whole time, I never saw that. It reminded me so much of being in a figure drawing class when I used to study art, and everybody's focused on their thing, and you can hear pin drop. There's not chatter. You know, all these artists are working, so that's what was amazing. I'm not. The other kind can be fun when you're playing a different kind of material. When you're playing loosey goosey friends, it is kind of fun if you keep being loosey goosey friends when the camera's not rolling. But on this, it was it was like right before the orchestra starts to play in a symphony hall. Like, you know, we are going to work now, and we're all quiet. It was great. It was great.
Is there a scene that you're most proud of the work you put into, whether it's going there to be that angry, or maybe the interrogation scenes, or maybe
I
it's a
think
simple moment?
the interrogation scene I haven't seen, but I have been given to understand from people who know me really well that there were that that there were things I expressed in it that it looked like, it appeared in a couple of moments where the character was feeling an emotion he wanted to make sure nobody saw and that the camera saw it. Now that if that's true, I would be very happy because I'm always telling the people that I coach, I'm like, okay, so we got one thing going on. You're, you know, in this instance, the one I'm talking when you're listening and I'm watching your face. That's just one thing. But I always say you got to have at least two other things going on. You have to be. Um, I want you to see that view out the windows to your garden, which you know gives you pleasure, and like that's you know that's a separate activity, and I want to like you know then I want you to be also really picturing those places you're talking about and there's some things you aren't talking about. You have to have multiple activities. I say like if there isn't a minimum of three, I don't know why I'm watching you. So I think in that scene it was probably my opportunity to do a few things at once, and if that worked then I would be happy. In some of the other ones it's a simpler thing. It's like I'm already mad when the scene starts. I've obviously been yelling for 5 minutes, and now you're just picking this up, and then you're getting and I throw it at him, and that's there to show one event, you know, which is he got him so mad that he threw the thing, and that lets you know that I could be the murderer. But when there's a bunch of things going on, that's really exciting. When there's a bunch of things going on, and you're because I think the in life the things that really mean something are when anybody from 20 feet away could look and say, what were you guys talking about? And then you say, oh, she was breaking up with me. And they're like, you're kidding. But I didn't see it. And it's like, but if you think about the things that have made a huge impact, they're often really still. And somebody's just saying, the baby died, or you got into Yale, or something. And it's not a big thing. It's it's not on the surface at all. So those are the things I get excited about.
Did you always know of DDA's innocence, or did you follow along in the page in the script like the rest of us, really not knowing minute by minute?
I knew he was innocent, but the key thing was to always find something that um, I could substitute from his off-screen life that would make him appear to be guilty. That is crucial. You have to look you have to do that in a murder mystery. You have if you're if you're not thinking about the actual thing you did, you have to think of something else you did that could make you want to um, hide behind a screen of something. And then that's what I was doing. I don't know what everybody else was doing, but I had a lot of skeletons.
This is such a special series. And I've gushed to you, I gushed to Juliet, I gushed to Mel, and this is just outstanding because you are immediately entranced into who killed this beloved figure. But there's so many players, you never know from one moment to the next how they play a part in this possible murder.
Yeah,
And
so good,
you are
isn't it?
just it's just like waiting to like you have to eat the last crumb before you decide if the cake was
Yeah,
really
yeah, yeah.
good.
Now, did you ever think that I did it?
They were, I will say that they, when they were pushing that you had to be guilty and that even, Al Franken has a list that says like the
Yeah,
chef, the chef, the chef. I was like, I still don't 100%. I'm not, there's still so much to play out, that I can't like possibly put all of my eggs in DDA's basket at that point. So I wanted to have faith that just because you made this and they're moving you from one room to the next, they've cut off your, dessert skills, they've put you away in the basement with the ginger house and everything, that just because that you understood this is for the White House, it's not like a personal insult that would make you push over the edge to lash out at AB because maybe this is the one event where he pissed you off. Like this is the one time in your history of working at the White House that AB like really upset you. But I didn't think it was to that point where maybe you
hmm
were like holding in this inner anger for years or something and then like coming for him like this was the last straw that pushed DDA over the edge, or even if this was like the one time where DDA had enough and he was just like, all right, fine, like I'm gonna do it because he pissed me off in this moment enough to, I wasn't 100% sold, I will say, that he was, even when he put the knife in the incinerator, I will say even then I wasn't 100% sold that that was his cause of death. um, so I will say you are a lovable grouch to a point, question mark in this series, and that's what makes it so outstanding. As I said, you never know one moment to the next. If you're 100% committed to, you figured out who is responsible for this murder, and it's just a tribute to the beautiful work you continue to do on our screens in so many roles that just blow people away with your acting. And are there any other projects you've been busy working on lately that we'll be getting to see you in soon?
I'm working on one which uh, I don't know when we're even going to put it in its final form, but I've been working on one since December that some days it is so the prep for it is so incredibly exhausting. So that I don't know when anybody's going to see because we haven't even completely dialed in when we're going to shoot it. But I will tell you that the prep for it is minimum of 2 hours a day, sometimes six, and I routinely at dinner time say I'm not going to do any appointments. I'm not going to go do anything. I'm good for nothing but bed, and yeah, it's exhausting.
Will we be maybe getting you in a theater production in the near future?
Well, that's never off the table. But
I was hoping
I
you would say that.
no, it's absolutely fab to do that. It's a whole different kind of presentation. I always say, but then when it comes right down to it, it still is just this like frequency right in here. So no, I love it. I love it, but I'm easily bored. So sometimes I'll do a short run of a play because the only kind of long runs I like to do is where I'm playing multiple characters because then I can say every single day going into a show, a performance, I can say tonight. I did a show for quite a long time where I played 8 different people. and I would be walking to
Wow.
the theater. I'd think, okay, so tonight is his night. Everybody else, you're fine. You know what you're doing. You're fine. It's his night. I'm going to see where I can, develop him, and that was really fun. But if I'm just playing one, uh, after a few weeks, I'm like, oh God. I did a play on Broadway called by Fox, and I was in the very first scene, and then I wasn't on stage again until the second act. So I used to do my scene, go upstairs. This was on 46th Street in Broadway. Go upstairs, take my costume off, go around, find out who wanted what, and then go out up and down 8th Avenue and find a good pizzeria and get pizza and bring it back and put it out in the green room. Then go put my costume every night. And I used to get a huge kick out of that.
What would you like to say then to everyone who continue to be such a fan and supporter of the wonderful work you do on our screens? It's such a pleasure to see your long-lasting career continue to shine.
What would I say to the people that watch?
Yes,
I would say it's a great pleasure to still be doing it. And it's also a, a great thing that, only time can provide. But it's wonderful to no longer, it took a long time. Uh, if I played a character that was uh, damaged and bad, then I would see people saying, "Oh, I can't believe Balky did that," and I would think, "Well, Balky didn't do anything. He's a fictional character that lives in."
that's right. Bronson is another.
But it is great to have just eased out of the niche of that's what he ought to be doing. So now he's doing something different. To I guess my new niche is, well, you never know what he's going to do, um,
Absolutely.
and that's a nice niche to have because it's so strong when you're young and you're in a very exposed project. Then everybody expects you to get in there and do something similar, and I get it. There's nothing you can do about it. All you have to do is survive long enough uh, so that if somebody is 15 and watching The Residence and says I like his acting, then I like to think that the parent is saying, well, if you could see what he was doing when he was when I was young, you wouldn't even recognize him. That I like. But when all those people were still walking the earth, and they would say, "Why did you let Balky kill the?" It's like, ooh, but it's just like it's just like making um, rice pudding. You just have to wait, and then it's done. So now I don't have any expectations, and it's fun. I can actually play anything I put my mind to, and I don't have to be thinking who's gonna. No, that's what I do.
I mean, you have to know this is what you were meant to do, not just accent wise, but acting. You just have a powerful presence on our screen outside of this one niche that maybe people put you in because of that talent. You're just an
Yeah.
outstanding actor that I continue to enjoy watching, regardless of the role you're in, because you always have such depth that you bring, whether it's a comedic character or not. There is a heart that you bring to these roles. There is a talent you bring to breathing life in them.
Well, thank you. That is important to me. I always say I wish we had a different word. I wish we had a different word. I wish we didn't, because for instance the verb act, you'll hear that used um, you'll hear that used in a way that reveals what people really think of it. Like
Mm-hmm.
those the Instagram video where there's a 1-year-old who doesn't get the quesadilla she wants, and then she does. You're like, "Ah!" And they say, "Oh, she's acting," and it's like, yeah, that's what you think acting is.
Acting
You
is.
think it's just phoning it in to get what you want. And I always say when I'm coaching somebody that's having a little problem, they're close, but they're not. I always say, forget that it's called acting, and let's call it being. And now do it again, and don't let me catch you acting. Just be. and that is usually the thing that kicks it. But I wish we didn't have, you know, I wish we should pick a different word every week because, we're also, I do a lot of audiobook narrating. And to me, narrating sounds like the spotted cockapoo is walking backwards as part of his mating ritual. And that's narrating, it's not connected. Whereas when I coach people on audiobook narrating, I'm like, no, you are the story. Don't tell me the story. You are the story. You are the tornado. You are the old lady. You are the little tiny kid. Don't tell me what they said. Be them. So I think one of the big things is to kind of make sure when you finish your bagel and you're heading to the set is to reset and remember what it is that the camera wants from you because it doesn't want acting. I mean, I get a little bit of a kick out of acting sometimes when it's all, when they're like, Lord Scumblebum, how dare you look? I'm like, okay, that's kind of fun. But I only like that the same way I like watching a friend play video games. I'm like, oh, that's fun. That's like, yeah, boom, oh,
Right.
oh, there goes their head and the head exploded. And I always get a kick out of it because the acting on video games is so bad. It's like,
It's over
it's
overboard.
terrible. But I do get a kick out of acting when I see acting out of the corner of my eye. But if I'm going to spend 2 hours with somebody, I want them not to be acting. I really want them to be being, and I don't want if I see acting and I'm in it, even if I'm coaching someone, I'm like stop, 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 throw this away. Oh, it gets really good at the end. Well, that's too bad because the beginning and middle are I can't sit here. No, no. And it always works. Ultimately, or they'll send me another take. I'm like, I can see from the thumbnail that you're acting. No. Then you get the one that's like, what's going on here? And then you see them just be it. And that's the thing.
Well, thank you so much, Bronson, for taking your time again.